Hey, it's Elizabeth with your weekly tasting, and this week, Malbec, France versus Argentina. The byline here, well, born in France, made in Argentina, because the reputation of Malbec comes from these lush, plush, plummy styles from Argentina. But the grape did originate in France, and we're gonna give homage to that in two awesome bottles here, and then you're gonna get to taste the Argentinians as well. First, Domaine de Bateliers, which is from Cahors, where we think the grape originated. This is Southwest France. This wine's earthy, it's got lots of tannin, it needs food, but it's 100% Malbec from an independent vigneron, a small shop. It really makes awesome Malbec. You're gonna get to taste what a pure example of Malbec is from its homeland. Then this fantastic blend from Bordeaux, 60% Malbec, 40% Merlot. You almost never see Malbec being a lead grape in Bordeaux, but here you see it. And this wine shares some characteristics with the Domaine de Bateliers, but the Chateau Vieux Poirier is really earthy, tastes like Bordeaux, but at the same time, lots of dark flower notes, some raspberry notes from the Merlot, a super interesting look at Bordeaux. And then two from Argentina. Same vintage, totally different area, even though they both say Mendoza on the bottle. The Famiglia Bianchi is from a cooler area, so even though it's plummy, it's still so fresh. It's got great acidity, it tastes light, and it is so airy. It's an outstanding version of Malbec, very different. And then the Pascual Toso, the bigger, bolder Reserva. This wine has a lot of character and lots of plumminess. It drinks way above its pay grade, as do all these wines. I think you're gonna appreciate what each region has to offer and see this grape has so many different sides to it. So let's get to tasting. This wine is the Pascual Toso Reserva Malbec 2014, and it's actually not just from Mendoza, but the Las Barrancas area in the Maipú subregion of Mendoza, which is fabulous for really ripe, delicious, jammy, plummy Malbec, and that's exactly what you're gonna find in this 100% estate grown wine. So this is what we're used to when we think about Argentinian Malbec. This wine has lots of fruit flavor. It's got all new oak barrels, so 20% French, 80% American oak. That's the opposite of the Famiglia Bianchi, which is lighter style. Totally awesome to contrast these two wines. We look at it on the white piece of paper so we can see the purity of the color. My gosh, this wine is so dark. I mean, it's as dark as all the other Malbecs. Really dark pigmented grape, really thick legs from a little bit of a higher alcohol. And let's take a swirl and a sniff. I mean, it smells a little spicy. It's almost like Christmas cake, if you know what that is. Like, it's got ripe plum and blackberry and all that kind of stuff, but then there's like a sweet vanilla thing and nutmeg, and there's some dried cherry and dried cranberries and mocha, all these things all together. Really a complex wine, a little bit of a brandied note, some woodsiness or pine balsam note, and let's taste it. I mean, it tastes just like it smells. It's got all of that going on. That Christmas cake spiciness, the brandy note. It's a little bit warm from the higher alcohol. Nice soft tannin. It does build in your mouth just like all tannins with every sip. Great acidity. There's a little bit of a punch. I mean, this is a bolder Malbec. This is the biggest wine of the bunch. Really awesome. Gonna be great with red meat, with steak. It'll be fantastic with portobello mushrooms, grilled vegetables, anything with like cheddar, farmhouse cheeses, that kind of stuff is gonna be fantastic with this wine. It's a lovely wine, one that you're really gonna appreciate if you like Malbec. It drinks way above its price point, and it's just all around tasty and a little hedonistic. You will adore this wine. So the Famiglia Bianchi Malbec 2014 is our example of a fresh style Malbec from a cooler area of the Mendoza Valley in Argentina, which is the main place that they grow the Malbec grape. This area is the San Rafael area, and it is just a lot cooler than some of the other Malbecs. So you're gonna get a freshness about this wine that you might not get elsewhere. This wine is super dark in color like all of our Malbecs. That's no different from anything else. It's kind of a dark plum color. Give it a swirl, a sniff. Cinnamon and pepper, like black pepper, black plum and other dark fruits. It's got like a woodsy smoked note from the oak. But it's subtle because it's 80% French oak, which is much subtler, and 20% American oak, that's bolder. But I don't get any of those dill coconut notes that you'd usually get off of American oak. So it smells like it's gonna be pretty bold, but taste it. It's not, it's got this like fresh laundry blowing in the breeze kind of character, which is so nice because it's sourced from this cooler area. It is better with 30 minutes of decanting, so make sure that you pour it in your glass and let it sit for 30 minutes. But pomegranate, blackberry, plum, cloves, cinnamon, it's just soft, it's fresh, it's got some acidity, it's mouth-watering acidity to keep it bright and fresh. There are tannins there, so it's not flabby, but it has this just really great balance between freshness and fruit, and it's fantastic. I think this would go really well with red meat, frankly. Steak, fajitas, if you're a vegetarian, a black bean burrito or grilled eggplant are gonna go great. Barbecued pork, especially if it's smoky, because you have this smoky note, or even smoked cheeses that go well with this wine. This is a fantastic example of how a fresher style Malbec can be made in Mendoza, and it's so different from all of our other examples, and just a lovely, light and luscious wine. This is an awesome wine. It's a Bordeaux blend that's from the right bank, which is known for making Merlot dominant blends, except that it's mostly Malbec. So it's from this guy, Jean-Luc Sonnevant, who his family makes this $100 plus wine from a famous chateau. He bought vineyards just slightly outside of some of the best areas, Saint-Leon, Pomerol, Fronsac. These areas are all really famous. And this vineyard is organically farmed, which is unusual again for Bordeaux. And it's Malbec dominant. So this guy's an indie winemaker. He makes some unusual wines. We have an opportunity to taste this. It's so fantastic. And a great opportunity to see how Malbec acts in Bordeaux, where it used to be the dominant grape, actually. So here it's a little bit lighter than the wine of Cahors, which is the black wine, but still pretty dark. Malbec does tend to be a darker colored grape with pigmented skins. So let's give it a swirl and a sniff. It smells like black tea, and it smells like roses and dark flowers and earth and wet soil. So that interplay of Merlot and Malbec sort of changes the dynamics, makes more floral aromatics and kind of this tea note. And let's taste it. It's lush and it's medium bodied. It has lots of complexity, nice mouth-watering acidity, good tannin, but not too much. This is gonna be really nice with beef or mushroom dishes. Maybe even a mushroom risotto would be really fantastic with this, soups, those kinds of things. Really tasty with this medium bodied wine. The one tip that I'll tell you is that it tastes much better on the first night. So if you can gather a couple friends around and each have a glass, that's probably better than waiting until the second night when it loses some of these amazing aromatics and tasty, amazing flavors and textures. A fantastic look at Malbec the way that it used to be made in the old world tradition. The Domaine de Bateliers Cahors is our example of the ancestral home or the birthplace of Malbec, because we believe that the grape comes from this area of southwest France, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Bordeaux, where the grape is still used in blends. Now, this is the only place in France where Malbec is treated with lots of respect because it is the main grape in Cahors. It has sometimes a little bit of Tannat or Merlot blended in, but this one is 100%. And here, Cahors makes Malbec that is full, earthy, tannic, and super dark. It used to be called the black wine of Cahors. If we take our light sheet of paper so we can see the purity of the color, gosh, this wine is dark. It really is black, purple in center. You cannot see your fingers through this wine. It is very dark from all of the pigment and the ripeness in the skin. So let's give it a swirl and we'll give it a sniff. I mean, my challenge to you would be to find any fruit in this on the sniff, because frankly, it's all minerals, it's potting soil. There's some floral component, which maybe you could morph into fruit, but really it is just land. I mean, this is a wine with a real sense of somewhereness, a sense of place. Let's taste it and see if we get more fruit there. I mean, it's still so earthy, but underneath that you do get a little bit of plum, some dark cherry, dark flowers, and you just sense that sense of land so strongly. It's really interesting. The wine was aged in concrete, so you're not gonna get any extraneous oak flavors. The concrete sort of rounds out the flavor, but keeps the essence of the grape, which is really nice. This wine needs food because it's got strong mouth drying tannins. It's not a heavy wine, but it is bold in its notes. I'm gonna say you really should go for like beef stew, black truffles, or anything with truffle oil, lentil stews. Hearty foods are gonna go really well. It needs it as a counterbalance against the tannin and the earth. Hey, so that's it. I hope that you enjoyed our look at Malbec, France versus Argentina, and that you learned a lot about this amazing grape and how both the land and the person making the wine have an effect on it. I hope that you give us feedback at help@weeklytasting.com, and make sure to check back on Mondays for the next available pack. Cheers to you.